Alien princess despised humans, until this soldier became her bodyguard. The air was thick with tension aboard the Alliance star cruiser Valiant Dawn as it orbited high above the emerald-hued planet of Aloria. Commander Ryland Blake adjusted the straps of his tactical gear, the quiet hum of his plasma rifle providing a comforting reassurance. Despite his calm exterior, his pulse quickened with unease. His latest assignment was clear, yet absurdly complicated. Protect Princess Elira of the Vexari royal house, even if it cost him his life. Ryland sighed, shaking his head. It wasn't the mission itself that unsettled him. It was the notorious hostility of the princess he was tasked to guard. Princess Alara of the Zelnari had openly despised humans from the start, her disdain well known throughout the Alliance. He approached the ornate doors to her quarters, steeling himself for the inevitable confrontation. Taking a deep breath, he keyed the access panel. The heavy doors slid open, revealing the luxurious yet alien interior, and the regal figure awaiting him. Princess Alara stood defiantly by the viewport, silhouetted against the swirling greens and blues of her homeworld. Her long, silvery white hair cascaded elegantly past her shoulders, contrasting sharply with her deep indigo skin, marked with delicate, luminous patterns. Even scowling, she carried herself with an unmistakable grace. She spun around, dark eyes narrowing dangerously. I requested a Zelnari protector, human. Explain your presence. Ryland met her fierce gaze evenly. The council assigned me personally. I'm the most qualified protector aboard this ship, whether you approve or not. She crossed her arms defiantly, studying him as though assessing his worth. Humans are reckless, undisciplined, emotional. He raised an eyebrow calmly. And yet we seem to keep saving your royal backside. Her luminous markings pulsed briefly, a sign he'd learned of suppressed anger. Your arrogance does not impress me, Commander Blake. Humans are impulsive, driven by emotion rather than reason. He gave her a humorless smile. Those impulses saved your life more than once. She hesitated, frustration warring with reluctant acknowledgement. Her response was sharp, yet quieter. You mistake duty for heroism. Before Ryland could respond, the entire ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring. The comm system crackled to life. Enemy boarding parties detected. Drakesh infiltration teams incoming. Ryland instantly raised his rifle, shifting into battle readiness. Princess, we need to move. Now! Her eyes flared with defiance. I refuse to flee from... The corridor exploded in a cascade of sparks and flame, throwing Alara off balance. She stumbled, crying out as she landed hard, pain flaring through her side. Ryland reacted immediately, crouching protectively over her. You all right? He asked urgently, scanning for threats as alarms blared around them. My leg, she gasped, eyes wide with shock and pain. I cannot move. His combat visor's scan confirmed her injury, fractured bone and torn muscle tissue. Without hesitation, he scooped her gently into his arms. Human, she hissed, voice filled with disbelief. You dare touch... You can yell at me later. Ryland cut in sharply, already moving swiftly down the corridor, every muscle tensed as he maneuvered through debris-strewn hallways. Right now, our job is survival. Alara fell silent, her pride wounded but reluctantly aware she depended entirely upon him. She hated the vulnerability, yet couldn't ignore the unexpected strength radiating from him. Steady, determined, protective. His heartbeat was surprisingly steady, his warmth strangely comforting. Why risk yourself for someone who despises your kind? She finally asked bitterly, her voice softer than she'd intended. Ryland paused, briefly meeting her intense gaze. Because some things matter more than grudges, like honor. She frowned, unexpectedly moved by his sincerity, though she'd never admit it. Honor? A curious human concept. You should try it sometime, he retorted lightly, resuming his cautious advance. Might do wonders for your charming personality. A faint, unwilling smile touched her lips before she hid it swiftly. You are insufferable, Ryland Blake. And you're unbearably stubborn, Alara, he countered warmly, surprising himself with how natural her name felt on his tongue. As they navigated the collapsing ship, their combined tactical awareness proved formidable. Even wounded, Alara's enhanced senses guided them through hidden threats, While Ryland's combat expertise dispatched enemies with ruthless efficiency, a squad of Drakesh soldiers suddenly blocked their path, weapons drawn and charged. Ryland shielded Alara instinctively, firing rapidly to suppress their advance. "Commander, left flank," Alara called, her voice urgent but confident. Ryland pivoted instantly, neutralizing the threat with expert precision. "Good call." She hesitated before responding quietly, almost grudgingly. "Your skills are admirable." "Careful, princess," Ryland teased gently, darting down another corridor. That sounded suspiciously like respect. She glared at him briefly, but to his surprise, her expression softened. "Perhaps you're not as primitive as I'd believed." They finally reached an escape shuttle, the hangar bay now eerily silent. Ryland quickly settled Alara into a medical seat, activating emergency systems. "We're safe for now," he assured softly, glancing at her injured leg. "But we need medical attention." Alara's eyes suddenly widened, her gaze shifting behind him. "Commander, watch out!" Ryland spun around as a Drakesh assassin lunged from the shadows. Without thinking, he shielded Alara with his body, feeling searing pain as a plasma blade sliced into his side. With desperate strength, he fired his rifle, eliminating the assassin instantly. "Ryland!" Alara cried in horror, feeling his body slump heavily against her. "Just doing my job," he rasped weakly, collapsing beside her. Fear surged through her heart, breaking past barriers she'd carefully constructed. "No, you foolish human! Hold on!" Ignoring the agony in her leg, Alara crawled desperately toward a nearby emergency console, activating the ship's healing pod. She'd sworn never to bond with another, especially a human, but faced now with his fading life, pride seemed meaningless. The pod glowed softly, awaiting occupants. She gently dragged Ryland toward it, her voice trembling. "Stay alive, Ryland, please." His eyes fluttered, gaze unfocused. "Are you actually worried about me, princess?" Her breath caught painfully, realizing the truth she'd been denying. "You are infuriatingly impossible." But yes, as the healing pod activated, its ancient energies enveloped them, merging their genetic signatures to heal the injuries. Alara's consciousness intertwined with Ryland's in an intense, intimate fusion neither had expected. Ryland gasped, feeling her emotions surge into him, her buried fears, the deep loneliness beneath her proud exterior, and beneath it all, a spark of undeniable attraction. "Alara," he whispered, realization dawning softly. "This bond. Permanent," she whispered softly, eyes locking with his, filled with an intense vulnerability she'd never shown. "We are forever connected now." "I wouldn't have it any other way," Ryland whispered fiercely, sensing her true feelings clearly. Outside, the Drakesh threat loomed, but within the healing chamber, two enemies had transformed into something neither species had imagined possible. United, unstoppable, and unexpectedly bound forever. Their battle was far from over, but as they emerged renewed from the chamber, weapons ready and hearts now linked, both knew one truth with absolute certainty: their worlds and their lives would never be the same again. The interior of the escape shuttle hummed softly as it drifted through the darkness of space, fleeing the wreckage of the fallen cruiser. Ryland sat quietly near the control panel, still adjusting to the overwhelming rush of sensations flooding through the newly formed bond he shared with Alara. Every heartbeat, every subtle shift of her emotions was felt intimately, a strange but surprisingly pleasant experience. Alara reclined opposite him, eyes fixed thoughtfully on the swirling stars outside the viewport. Her injury had healed miraculously within the healing pod, and though physically she appeared perfectly restored, Ryland sensed the emotional storm brewing within her. "Alara," Ryland began gently, breaking the long silence between them. "You've been quiet for a long time. Talk to me." She turned slowly, her luminous eyes regarding him intensely. "It's this bond," she admitted softly, her voice carrying a note of vulnerability she rarely allowed. "It's overwhelming," he smiled gently. "You're telling me. Feeling someone else's heartbeat inside my own chest isn't exactly routine for humans." Her lips curled into a brief, reluctant smile. "Yet you handle it surprisingly well." Adaptability is one of our finer traits, he joked softly, leaning forward, expression becoming serious. But there's something you're hiding from me. Her gaze flicked downward, hesitation flickering through their shared emotional link. My people have a complicated history with humans. Long before this war, a human betrayal nearly wiped out my entire royal bloodline. Trusting your kind again feels impossible. Yet here we are, Rylan said gently, reaching out instinctively to take her hand. Her warmth sent an electric spark racing through both of them. Maybe fate wants to rewrite our history. She stared at their intertwined fingers, her heartbeat quickening, emotions surging unpredictably. Perhaps, she murmured, voice barely audible. But can you truly trust me, knowing how much I despised your kind? Rylan's thumb brushed reassuringly against her soft skin. I've trusted you with my life already. Trusting you with my heart doesn't feel like much of a leap. Her eyes widened slightly, the intimacy of his admission resonating through their bond. The sincerity in his gaze unnerved, yet comforted her simultaneously. Before she could respond, alarms blared, jolting them both upright. Rylan quickly moved to the shuttle controls, heart racing. Incoming vessels, fast movers, Drakesh signatures. Alara activated the shuttle's tactical interface, eyes sharp. They tracked our escape pod. He quickly assessed their dire situation. There's a nebula nearby. If we hide inside, their sensors might lose us. Risky, she observed carefully. Nebula radiation might damage our systems. Better than certain death, Rylan countered, already steering toward the glowing purple cloud. The shuttle lurched violently as enemy fire narrowly missed their hull. Alara nodded decisively. Agreed. Take us in. The shuttle plunged into the nebula's swirling luminescent depths, their surroundings filled with brilliant bursts of electromagnetic energy. Systems began flickering, screens filling with static. We need to power down, Rylan shouted, struggling to stabilize the craft. Otherwise, they'll track our energy signature. Then do it, Alara commanded firmly, her voice calm despite their dire circumstances. Rylan hit the emergency shutdown, plunging the shuttle into silent darkness. Without power, the craft drifted silently through the nebula's colorful currents. They listened breathlessly as enemy ships swept nearby, their scans narrowly missing the hidden craft. Minutes dragged into tense eternities until finally, the enemy ships withdrew. Alara exhaled softly, relief flooding through their bond. That was too close. Rylan chuckled softly in the dark. I'm starting to think trouble follows you everywhere, princess. She shifted closer, her voice surprisingly gentle. And yet you never seem to hesitate to protect me. Even now your thoughts are of my safety, rather than your own. He met her gaze, illuminated softly by nebula light streaming through the viewport. That's because protecting you stopped being just a duty long ago. Alara felt her breath hitch softly, her emotions swirling dangerously close to the surface. Why would you risk so much for me? His response was quiet but firm. Because beneath all your disdain and mistrust, I see someone extraordinary, someone worth fighting for. Before she realized her own actions, Alara reached out gently, fingers brushing tenderly along his jaw. The gesture sent powerful waves of shared sensation rippling through their bond. Rylan, Alara, he whispered softly, leaning closer, heart racing in perfect synchrony with hers. Their lips met softly, hesitantly at first, then deeper as emotions surged uncontrollably between them. The bond magnified every sensation, blending their passion into a breathtaking symphony of shared desire. When they finally separated, both were breathless, hearts hammering as one. I never imagined, she whispered, voice trembling with raw emotion, I would find such warmth in a human's touch. Life surprises you, he murmured tenderly, forehead resting gently against hers. Though to be fair, you haven't exactly been predictable either. She laughed softly, genuinely, a sound Rylan found incredibly beautiful. Perhaps humans aren't entirely without merit. Careful, he teased affectionately, that's dangerously close to a compliment. Their quiet intimacy was interrupted as the shuttle's emergency power flickered back to life, instruments slowly recalibrating. Systems returning to normal, Alara reported reluctantly, pulling away gently. "We must find a safe haven before they return." Rylan nodded, quickly returning to the pilot's seat, hands dancing expertly across the controls. "There's a Zelnari outpost nearby, neutral ground. If we can make it there..." "Perhaps my people might help," she finished quietly, doubt coloring her words. "Though I fear they'll react poorly to our bond." He glanced sideways at her, determination shining fiercely. "We'll convince them. Once they see what our bond is capable of, they'll understand." She smiled faintly, admiration blossoming in her heart. "You truly are an idealist." "No," he corrected warmly, squeezing her hand briefly. "Just someone who found something worth believing in." Their shuttle burst from the nebula, speeding toward the distant glittering lights of the outpost. Yet as they approached, distress signals screamed across their comm channels. "Under attack, massive Drakesh assault force, requesting immediate assistance." Rylan cursed softly. "They must have guessed we'd come here." Alara drew herself up, strength radiating from her slender frame. "Then we fight. This bond has given us strength. I feel your courage, your determination. Together we can save them." Rylan nodded firmly, admiration deepening for the fierce princess who'd once despised him. "Then let's show them exactly what humans in Zelnari can accomplish." With perfect synchronization, they prepared for combat. Alara's enhanced senses guided Rylan's piloting skillfully through incoming fire, his rifle firing precisely where she directed. Their bond had transformed them into something unprecedented, more powerful together than either alone. As they landed amid the outpost's devastation, survivors stared in awe. Alara stood proudly beside Rylan, their bond evident to all. A Zelnari commander stepped forward, eyes narrowed suspiciously. "Princess Alara, you stand beside a human, bonded no less. Explain." Alara met the commander's gaze unflinchingly, voice filled with newfound conviction. "This human, Commander Blake, saved my life and showed me honor I thought lost to his kind. Our bond is no accident. It's fate's message that our species can unite." Silence fell across the battlefield, shocked murmurs rippling among the gathered warriors. Finally, the commander inclined his head respectfully. "Then we fight alongside you, Princess. Perhaps together we truly stand a chance." Alara looked up at Rylan, pride and affection clear in her gaze. "Together." Rylan smiled warmly, weapon ready. "Together." And as the enemy approached again, both knew that what they had begun was far more than just their bond. It was the beginning of something revolutionary, something that would change the future of both their worlds. As explosions lit up the dark horizon, Commander Blake stared at Alara and Rylan, disbelief etched deep into his battle-hardened features. Around them, the Zelnari defenders scrambled desperately, their defensive formations failing against the relentless Drakesh onslaught. "Princess Alara," Commander Blake began warily, eyes narrowed. "Even if you trust this human, we're facing impossible odds. We've already lost half our defenses. What makes you think a single human can turn the tide?" Before Alara could answer, Rylan stepped forward, his plasma rifle still glowing faintly from the earlier firefight. His voice carried quiet authority. "You're not just getting a human, Commander. You're getting a bonded pair whose abilities far exceed either species alone." Blake stared incredulously. "A biological bond? With a human?" "Yes," Alara confirmed calmly, reaching out to rest her hand on Rylan's shoulder, their connection flooding them with mutual reassurance. "A bond so powerful it merges our senses, our thoughts, even our reflexes. Your soldiers fight bravely, Commander, but imagine their effectiveness amplified tenfold." Commander Blake's skepticism wavered slightly, curiosity ignited by her confidence. "You truly believe this bond can change the outcome?" "There's only one way to prove it," Rylan replied firmly, eyes locked defiantly with Blake's. "Give us command of your frontline squad. Let us lead them." Blake hesitated, clearly torn before nodding grudgingly. "Very well. Prove to me this bond is real, but if you fail, we'll lose more than just this outpost." With no further argument, Rylan and Alara moved swiftly toward the front lines. Their shared senses surged, analyzing threats instantly, Alara's alien insight seamlessly merging with Rylan's combat instinct. "On your right," she whispered mentally, her voice clear inside his head. "I see them." he responded smoothly, dropping behind cover as enemy fire erupted around them. Their movements were flawless, deadly, each strike complementing the others perfectly. Enemies fell in rapid succession, the startled Drakesh clearly unprepared for the astonishing unity displayed by their opponents. As they cleared sector after sector, the previously demoralized defenders began rallying behind them, inspired by their seemingly supernatural effectiveness. "Humans and Zelnari, fighting together!" someone shouted, and the cry echoed through the battlefield. "Unity," Alara murmured to Rylan through their bond, pride and warmth radiating clearly. "Perhaps your species truly is capable of greatness." "Glad you're finally noticing," he teased gently, firing another precise shot. "Admit it, princess, you're enjoying fighting beside a human." She flashed him a fierce grin, energy blade blazing through enemy ranks. "I admit nothing." Yet their bond shared the truth clearly. Alara's heart raced not only from combat, but from the exhilaration of sharing this intimate synchronization with Rylan. Just as victory seemed imminent, however, alarms blared across their tactical displays. A Drakesh dreadnought loomed in orbit, preparing a devastating planetary bombardment. Blake's panicked voice filled their calm. "Princess, we're out of time. Their dreadnought is charging orbital bombardment cannons." Alara glanced sharply at Rylan, her mind already racing. "The defense platform, if we could somehow interface with it directly, we might turn its firepower back on the Drakesh." Rylan hesitated briefly, sensing her anxiety clearly through their bond. "But the platform uses Zelnari neural interfaces. You said yourself humans can't—" "Our bond," she interrupted firmly, eyes shining with sudden inspiration. "Our connection, it might bridge that gap. We could operate it together." He nodded without hesitation. "Worth a shot. Let's move." Together they rushed to the platform's control tower, weaving expertly through ongoing combat. Their shared awareness let them dodge threats effortlessly, dispatching enemies with lethal precision. Upon reaching the command chamber, Alara immediately began working, hands flying across holographic controls. Yet the Zelnari system rejected Rylan's attempts to assist. "It won't recognize my human biology," he growled, frustration mounting. "No," Alara whispered urgently, realization dawning. "We must use the bond itself. The system recognizes my royal genetic signature. If we physically connect during the activation sequence, it should extend that acceptance to you." Rylan moved beside her, his hand finding hers instinctively. "Then let's do this together." As their hands touched the controls simultaneously, the system surged with unexpected energy. The defense platform roared to life, but not in a standard combat mode. Instead, it responded directly to their emotional and biological synchronization, reconfiguring itself into something unprecedented. In seconds, the platform's weapons realigned, unleashing devastating firepower directly upon the attacking Drakesh forces. Enemy ships exploded into brilliant plumes of fire, their surprise evident through panicked communications. "Impossible," Blake whispered, disbelief clear in his voice as he watched the holographic battle feed. That system wasn't designed for human biology. Alara's voice was full of awe and pride. "No, Commander. It was designed to respond to harmony. It doesn't care about our species, only our unity." In moments, the assault was shattered. The Drakesh fleet forced into panicked retreat. As cheers erupted throughout the outpost, Raylan and Alara shared an exhausted yet triumphant smile. "Not bad for primitive humans, huh?" Raylan teased lightly, enjoying Alara's proud yet affectionate gaze. "Not bad at all," she admitted warmly, their bond overflowing with mutual triumph. "Perhaps even extraordinary." Commander Blake entered, visibly stunned yet respectfully nodding. "You've proven your point, Princess. I admit, your bond with this human changes everything." Before they could respond, a new transmission crackled urgently through the outpost comm system, this time directly from the Royal Zelnari Council itself. "Princess Alara," announced a stern female voice, unmistakably authoritative, "the Council has detected unauthorized hybrid synchronization signals emanating from your location. Explain yourself immediately." Alara glanced nervously at Rylan, their shared senses buzzing with anticipation and deepening resolve. "It seems our battle has only just begun." Rylan smiled, gripping her hand reassuringly. "Then we face it together." As the delegation approached, they both felt the gravity of the moment. Their bond represented a powerful, untested new chapter, not only in combat but also in diplomacy. And whatever challenges awaited, they knew they'd face them side by side. After all, neither human nor Zelnari could imagine what they'd now become together. A pair stronger, braver, and more intimately connected than either species had ever thought possible. The Zelnari command chamber pulsed with quiet tension as the combined delegations of humanity and Zelnari awaited Princess Alara and Commander Ryland's arrival. Holographic displays flickered, filled with analytics and recorded combat footage, showcasing their unprecedented unity, footage that had stunned both councils into uneasy silence. Admiral Reynolds of the Human Alliance, a grizzled veteran with a stern demeanor, cleared his throat as they entered. Beside him stood Matriarch Varanus, whose regal presence commanded instant respect, her emerald eyes piercing in their intensity. "Commander Ryland, Princess Alara," Admiral Reynolds began, his tone deliberately measured. "The data we've received defies explanation. It suggests your bond transcends known biological and technological limits. Can you explain how this happened?" Alara stepped forward gracefully, her composure unwavering despite the profound significance of the moment. "Admiral, our bond wasn't forged through experiments or calculated genetic manipulation. It happened naturally amidst the fire of battle, forged by trust and mutual respect." "Trust between human and Zelnari?" The matriarch spoke sharply, skepticism evident. "Our species have rarely seen eye to eye, much less shared such intimacy. How do we know your bond isn't just another failed experiment, destined to unravel?" Ryland tightened his grip on Alara's hand gently, feeling her steady reassurance pulse through their connection. "Because this wasn't forced," he replied firmly, matching the matriarch's powerful gaze. "We chose it freely. This bond grew naturally, without any hidden agendas, without laboratories or genetic manipulation." A ripple of uncertainty moved through the gathered officials, their skepticism challenged by the sincerity and power radiating from the bonded pair. Before further questions could arise, alarms shattered the moment's tense silence. Screens erupted with warnings of an imminent Drakesh fleet attack, larger and more devastating than any they'd previously encountered. Alara glanced quickly at Ryland, eyes widening as the depth of the threat became clear through their shared consciousness. "They're desperate! This attack could wipe out the entire system." Admiral Reynolds paled, quickly coordinating defense maneuvers. "Our fleet won't reach us in time. We're defenseless." "No," Alara said sharply, turning to face the officials decisively. "Not defenseless. Our bond, it can interface with your combined systems in ways neither of you can." The matriarch narrowed her eyes thoughtfully. "You mean to use your shared bond to control the entire planetary defense network simultaneously? That's impossible. Even our strongest empathic warriors have failed at such attempts." "Because you haven't had a human partner," Ryland said confidently, feeling a surge of determination ripple between himself and Alara. "Our unity doesn't just blend our senses, it amplifies them. Let us show you." The Admiral hesitated, then nodded grimly. "Do it. It may be our only chance." Together, Alara and Ryland stepped toward the central control interface. The system activated instantly, recognizing their combined biological and emotional unity. Streams of data flooded their minds, human algorithms and Zelnari empathic patterns merging flawlessly. "Unbelievable," Reynolds breathed, astonished as he watched defenses across the entire system come alive, responding to their command. Turrets, drones, even orbital satellites realign, preparing to meet the Drakesh fleet. "Hold steady," Alara urged softly through their bond, her mind and heart merging fully with Ryland's. "We can do this." Their synchronized minds effortlessly coordinated thousands of defense systems simultaneously, forming a vast, perfectly executed strategy against the invading forces. Explosions lit up space as Drakesh ships, caught off guard by the synchronized retaliation, faltered, then scattered. Yet amidst victory, Ryland sensed Alara's sudden anxiety, something deeper, more personal, rippling through their connection. He looked down sharply, concerned. "Alara, what's wrong?" Her lavender skin flushed softly as she placed one hand over her abdomen. "Ryland, there's something else, something our bond has revealed. The ritual didn't only merge our minds, I felt something else. He stared into her stormy eyes, realization dawning quickly. Are you saying? Yes, she whispered softly, smiling shyly. Our bond did more than unite our minds. It's created life, a child, part human, part Zelnari. Stunned silence filled the room, broken only by Admiral Reynolds' cautious voice. You realize what this means. Your child could redefine everything we know about cross-species alliances. Alara nodded solemnly, determination flaring once again. Precisely. Our child is living proof that unity isn't merely possible, it's essential. Rylan gently cupped her face, amazement and pride radiating clearly. Then let's ensure they grow up in a galaxy united, not divided by fear. Matriarch Alara stepped forward, her expression finally softening, eyes glistening with wonder. Perhaps we've underestimated humans. Your courage, Commander, and your bond with my daughter has shown us a path forward, one of unity rather than mistrust. Admiral Reynolds nodded, grudging admiration evident. Agreed. You two have proven what's possible. We'll stand by you. Humanity and the Zelnari can no longer ignore this. Our future must be shared. Months later, Alara rested comfortably in a private chamber within the newly established Unity Medical Facility. The room combined graceful Zelnari aesthetics and advanced human technology. Rylan paced anxiously nearby, his pulse elevated, shared empathically through their bond. Calm yourself, love, Alara's mental voice teased gently. You faced down armies without hesitation. Now you panic? Fighting Drakesh was easier, Rylan admitted with a rueful smile. At least then, I knew exactly what to do. Her laughter warmed his thoughts, comforting despite the tension. The moment was interrupted as medical staff from both species entered, monitoring devices glowing softly. Data streamed seamlessly, showing the child's status, the hybrid biology astounding even veteran medics. The baby's empathic resonance is off the charts, a medic whispered, awe-stricken, already interfacing with our medical systems. As labor began, Rylan felt every contraction, every emotion vividly through their connection. Pain and determination flowed freely between them, bonding them deeper than ever. The matriarch and Admiral Reynolds entered quietly, observing respectfully from the edge of the room. Even their presence couldn't disturb the profound intimacy enveloping the couple as they worked together, their mutual strength making the experience profound, transformative. Finally, in a surge of shared triumph, their child entered the universe, a cry echoing with both human strength and Zelnari grace. Carefully, Rylan held their newborn son, marveling at his delicate lavender-tinted skin and brilliant eyes, blending their worlds perfectly. Have you chosen a name? The matriarch asked gently, her voice reverent. Kaelin, Alara whispered softly, stroking the child's tiny face. In ancient Zelnari, it means the bridge between worlds. Fitting, Reynolds murmured appreciatively, deeply moved. He embodies the future we all hope for. Kaelin's tiny fingers curled instinctively around Rylan's thumb, sending a pulse of pure joy through their shared connection. Rylan smiled gently, feeling tears sting his eyes unexpectedly. Well, little guy, looks like you've already got everyone's attention, he murmured lovingly. No pressure. Admiral Reynolds cleared his throat respectfully. Given recent events, the Alliance and Zelnari Council have agreed. Your family symbolizes a new era. You've shown us unity we once thought impossible. We intend to honor that, the matriarch agreed solemnly. Kaelin represents hope for peaceful coexistence, a bridge between our people. Alara smiled proudly, leaning against Rylan lovingly. Then our bond has served its true purpose, creating a future built on unity, trust, and love. Rylan nodded, gently kissing Alara's forehead. Together we prove something incredible, that true connection can bridge even the deepest divides. Through their bond, they sensed Kaelin's infant consciousness already exploring, curiosity boundless. Both knew their son's life would rewrite history, guiding humanity and Zelnari toward a new era of cooperation and peace. Looking around, Alara saw awe and acceptance shining from faces once hardened by skepticism. Their love, once feared as impossible, had become a beacon of hope. "You've changed the galaxy, my daughter," the matriarch whispered proudly. "You both have." "Not just us," Alara replied warmly, feeling Relan's quiet confidence and Kalen's blossoming potential. "All of us, human and Zelnari alike. This is only the beginning." With that, the entire chamber resonated with newfound unity, hope tangible in every face present. No one doubted now that their bond represented a turning point, a promise of an unprecedented era of peace, built on strength through unity rather than fear. Because a human soldier had shown a mistrustful alien princess that love could conquer prejudice, bringing together two worlds forever changed by their courage, and a child whose very existence proved that nothing was impossible when hearts united.